Thank you, Ron. The Food and Drug Administration has approved a new Alzheimer's drug, and patients from a local hospital helped make it happen. Rob Macco joins us live in the Alert Center with a look at their efforts to bring hope to patients and their families. Rob.
Paul, the FDA has approved Eli Lilly's Kisunla to help people with early-stage Alzheimer's disease. 15 Alzheimer's patients at the Missouri Memory Center at Citizens Memorial Hospital in Bolivar took part in clinical research studies for the drug since March of 2021. Dr. Curtis Schreiber is a board-certified neurologist and director of the Missouri Memory Center. He says this is the second Alzheimer's drug approved by the FDA in less than a year. The Alzheimer's Association says nearly 7 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is caused when nerve cells in the brain are damaged, and the condition gets worse over time. Schreiber says the patients who volunteered to be in the study deserve a lot of credit and a lot of thanks.
The hope that we are offering to patients at these early stages is to slow the progression of the memory symptoms and the so-called functional symptoms. That means being able to do your stuff. And the big goal is to let people have more time at home, more time with their families, more time interacting and being part of their lives.
Dr. Schreiber says it's important to be diagnosed for Alzheimer's disease early. He says you should consider an evaluation if you're having short-term memory loss or trouble solving problems. He says they also have more opportunities for local Alzheimer's patients to be involved in clinical research studies. Now, if you would like to be involved in that, we have more information about how to do that on our website at ky3.com. Live in the Alert Center, Rob Macco, KY3 News.